Today we are going to be making the Pop Art storage box, shown here, using products available at the shop at Somerset, which is located at www.stampington.com. So the first step in making this box is to take a piece of 3x3 paper from the Vintage Scraps pack by Prima Marketing. They're already cut to size, and you're going to cover it with a diluted coat of gesso. So I usually just take a sponge brush, dip it in some water, and then dip it into my gesso, and then repeat until it's covered. It dries fairly fast as well, so this step is pretty quick. And if you need more water along the way, you can just keep dipping and redipping into your gesso as necessary. And you just want to kind of soften the background color of the paper so that it's not so harsh and that it can pick up the colors that you add. Okay, so then let that dry. The next step is to paint one of the square wooden boxes white using just regular acrylic paint. So I've left this one. The front is still to be covered, so this is just regular acrylic paint. And you can be kind of messy with this because it'll give it more of a used kind of shabby look. And I paint right over the clasps. As long as you do it lightly, it won't stick together. And you can make it kind of a thin coat so that the wood grain still shows through a little bit to give it some interest. Okay, go ahead and set that aside and allow it to dry. Okay, now's the fun part. You're going to print an image 4 times onto Extravaganza, which is just paper-backed organza sheets. I picked a photo of author Kurt Vonnegut. So it comes just ready to print. You just run it through your inkjet printer and it's ready to go. So the first step is to cut around the photo. I made this photo 3x3 to match the size of the collage scrap that I just covered in gesso. Okay, so now that it's cut, you can see that when you peel it off, you end up with your transparent fabric sheet, the organza, and then you have a little bit of the background image still printed onto the paper backing. You're going to use that as a mask. So carefully cut around the image, and it can be, you know, just sort of a vague shape around the hair and the body, just to kind of give you that rough outline. Okay. So that leaves me with a mask for the head area and then a mask for the background area. So I'm going to take the piece that I just gessoed, and you'd probably let it dry a little bit longer, but for the sake of this project, I'm just going to go ahead and jump right in. And this is just regular acrylic paint again, and you just kind of paint around the mask. When you peel it off, that's your basic outline for the image. I have one that I've already prepared and allowed to dry. So now I'm going to just paint in the area that's left on the mask. So I'm going to use pink to do kind of the face area. And you can be really sloppy with this because you know, it's kind of got that interesting character to it when you are. Now I'm just kind of following the lines of my picture. Where the facial area is where I'm filling in paint. then last I'm going to do the rest, which is kind of the lapel and coat area of this image. Okay, now I'm going to set that aside and let it dry. I have some that I've already prepared, and I'm going to show you how to finish the box. So here we have our box and some of our finished images. To stick these to the top of the box, I just use some DG3 art gel, which dries clear and is really easy to work with. And I just put some dots in the four corners and then just kind of fill in the center a little bit. And I just place this right on to the box. You may have to hold it because the paper tends to curl a little bit when you paint it. So you just kind of hold it in place for a few seconds and then it'll start to stick on its own. And then you can move on to the next one. I'm just repeating again, filling in the corners and a little bit in the center. Okay, once these are stuck down, you don't have to wait for them to dry completely. You can just, once they stick, you can start working. And you're just going to take dots of the DG3 art gel and put them in the four corners of your finished painted background image. And you're just going to stick your extravaganza right down on top. And just kind of press a little bit in the corners so that the gel comes through and sticks the organza down. I'm going to repeat it on this side. So again, just dots in the four corners. We'll let it set for just a second. I'm going to trim out the image. Just go ahead and peel off the paper backing. It's easiest if you just kind of put a little fold in the corner and it'll kind of separate the paper and the fabric a little bit. And then once it separates, it's easy to peel it apart. Okay, stick down your image. There you go. So you just would repeat this with the two other squares on the top of the box. Now on the finished box, I added a little phrase. So I just printed it out on the extravaganza, following the same steps. And just peel off the backing, put down a couple of drops of the DG3. And stick it in place. The stuff dries pretty quickly, so you can go ahead and turn it back on its side and let it dry. For the final effect on this box, I rubbed a little bit of Distress ink just on the edge. This does take a while to dry though, so you may want to wait until everything is dry, then rub your Distress ink on the edges. And then I also rubbed a little bit of Distress ink on these edges as well. Okay, and once it dries, you will have your finished box, like so.